Right.
We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I speak from the role of a patient, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey, and I'm Mason's mom, and I speak in the role of a caregiver. And today we are going to revisit a topic we have already, talked about a few times, probably in different episodes. But I think it's important to come back to this because some of you are new listeners. And I think also it's been a year since, we've started this show over a year now. And so we've learned things over
That
the
we
course
haven't,
of a
yeah,
year
that
too.
we haven't
So
known.
yeah, so it's like, hey, let's talk about it again because we may surprise ourselves and know
Mhm.
something that we didn't
Didn't
know
know back then,
before.
yeah.
Yeah, be able
When
to
we
offer
first
that
started.
advice. Because every time with this disease, time is like, that's how you learn. And
Mhm.
everything seems like in the beginning, like it's so much. And then all of a sudden you feel like you're a medical expert after a little while because you've
Not an
gone through this
expert, but
journey.
yeah,
Yeah. And you're not.
you're
Right.
still there, yeah.
Right. Just feel like
Yeah,
one,
you
but you're
feel like
not.
one.
Yeah. And so, you go through all these different phases and it's different for like what Mason has experienced versus even what I've experienced as a parent and as a caregiver. So we're going to kind of talk about from his diagnosis till now, just to help you out there who've been newly diagnosed,
Mhm.
to give you some advice and some tips on how to handle everything in the beginning. And so that's what we're
I'd
going to,
say the beginning is always the hardest part about every diagnosis. So,
right.
yeah.
Because most people may get a diagnosis and, unless you are a doctor,
Mhm.
you may have never heard
Yeah, when I got
of
Crohn's
it.
disease, at first I was like, well, any disease would not be good. But when you get diagnosed and they say, oh, you have Crohn's disease, and you're like, well, I've never heard of Crohn's disease before. So what is that? You feel like you've never heard of it before, so it must be rare, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I think a lot of you, like the very first thing that goes to your mind too is
what changes?
what changes?
Hmm.
How do we fix it? Is it fixable? Is it,
Is there a cure?
right?
Hmm.
Because it
How
feels,
fast can I cure it?
yeah, exactly. Especially when you're in an active flare, people can be diagnosed at different phases of this disease, and everyone is different with it. So depending where you're at with it when you're diagnosed, there can be a lot of questions and also urgency to feel better. It's
Mhm.
like, you want to feel better and
Can I
you
feel
want to
better
know.
now?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you have a diagnosis, and it's like, all right, we have that. So what does that mean? And typically, like for us, it meant 1,000 things. We met with like, I don't know, 6 different doctors, different GIs because
Mhm.
you're in the hospital for so long.
Yeah,
Eh,
and a lot of other people because there were teams that would come in and
right.
stuff.
So what we learned in that is there is not one way to necessarily
No.
handle this, and it would depend on the doctor. And so that surprised me because I had thought there was probably one way to treat this, and it was like they like they have a posted sheet in
Mhm.
their break room in the doctor's room with it like this is how to treat it, and everybody does the same
That's
thing.
that's not
We
how it
all
works.
And that isn't how it works. And we also learned that not all GIs,
Are the
gastroenterologists,
same.
are the same.
Mhm.
And so the very I think the very first piece of advice I could give is one that was given to us, which we've discussed on here. We have it on t-shirts. It's something we talk about. And it is something that Rolf Benershka had introduced to me when
Yeah,
Mason was
in the
diagnosed.
hospital. He called
Yeah.
you in the hospital, and he
Mhm.
said that
Yeah.
to
He
me.
called and he gave me the advice of just not focusing on everything at once, which is
Mhm.
what we were doing because
Yeah.
you're looking at every single aspect like, okay, if I make this decision, what does it do for this? And then what happens with this? And then
It's
what
kind of
happens with
hard to
this?
do when you're newly diagnosed because
It
you're
is.
confused and you're interested. Well, not interested, but you want to see what it means for your future.
Mhm.
But
It's very true.
yeah.
And because you do, I mean, you're suddenly learning about some disease you have, so you do become very interested in
Hmm.
like learning all about it. And so basically the advice is take one wave
At
at a
a
time.
time, yeah.
You can't take all the waves,
Mhm.
and you have to kind of
You have to
focus.
focus on one, and
Right.
then after you get done with one wave, you can focus on the next
Right.
wave, and then the wave after that. You can't do everything at once.
It's not to say, like, you ignore everything.
No.
That's not it, because the doctors will keep you on task with
Yeah.
that.
Hopefully they do.
But I guess
They should.
it's more about worry, and so instead of worrying about everything,
Mhm.
let yourself worry about one thing and try to accomplish that in the day, and then worry about the next. But worrying about 20 different things
At once is
is
it can be very
overwhelming.
stressful.
Yeah, and so ideally it's just to kind of focus, and that way you're not just going crazy.
Yeah,
And
what are all
yeah,
outcomes?
because there's a lot. So that's, I mean, and again, maybe it's easier for some than others depending on your situation. So don't beat yourself up either. Don't get upset if you this doesn't work for you. The one thing is everybody's experience is different,
Yeah,
and
everything with Crohn's is different.
Mhm.
There's no well, there might be if you're
There
really
are
lucky,
similarities. I mean, there's definitely similarities because you obviously have to diagnose this.
but nothing is perfectly,
Right. But
like,
everyone,
similar.
you have your own reactions, your own,
Everything
triggers.
is different.
Right. So when we speak on this, we are understanding that some of you listening will not have the same experience we had.
Mhm.
And so we just want to be very clear when we talk about this, we're just trying to give you ideas from our perspective that may help you, but we also understand that your experience might look different,
Yeah.
and that's okay too. And I think the other thing is when the doctor tells you, you have, told you and they told me, your son has Crohn's disease.
Mhm.
It's like we were saying, you have all these questions that pop in your head. And
Well, what is Crohn's disease? Obviously, probably being
right.
the first.
Yes. And it's like, so what is it? What does it cause? What does it do? And then it leads to all of a sudden, wait, can we fix this? Is this something that can be cured? And I think you slowly start to spiral when you hear that no, it can't be cured.
Mhm.
It's
When I was
permanent.
first diagnosed, I expected it. Well, eventually there'll be a cure. Well, obviously there will be a cure someday, probably in the future,
Hmm.
eventually. But I thought by now we probably had a cure for it. So I was like, okay. And I asked the doctor, I was like, so when do I, when am I cured? Like, when is remission? When will I stop having to take things? And she's like, there is no cure.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh,
I think
okay."
that was a really
Yeah,
hard
that was
day
a
for you.
really hard day because I
Yeah.
thought it was just like, "Oh, this is just for a year or 2, and then you're done
Mhm.
with it." No, it's for life.
Right.
But then it's different for everyone, so
Yeah. And as it is right now with biologics, there's a lot of people who think when they do feel better, they can come off of them. But the thing
mhm,
is, it's not curing the
no,
disease, it's treating
it's
it.
treating it. It's like
Right.
putting a Band-Aid on a cut. It's gonna help it heal,
Hmm.
but it's not gonna make it go away.
Right. That's your body, right? It's
Mhm.
not the Band-Aid.
Your body is the one
Right.
that's gonna
The
help it.
Band-Aid's assisting,
Yeah.
but it's not the actual one doing the healing.
The
And
Band-Aid's
so,
stopping it from getting worse, like from
yeah.
infection.
And so that's with biologics. That's basically how they presented it to us, which is another reason why parents panic, because you feel like I have to make a decision, like, and then and maybe sometimes doctors give too many decisions, but I think they try to give you options.
Mhm.
And I think though at first that's what's overwhelming, because you feel like, no, no, I want you to tell me the magic
Yeah.
potion here.
What's the
Yeah.
magic cure? What's the magic treatment?
Yeah, like, I want you to tell me that instead of, like, saying, "Well, here's the options, and what do you think?" Because it's like, I don't know what to think. I
Yeah, I haven't been in this field before.
Yeah, and so, but I mean, obviously they're there to help you, but these are just reactions at first. I know now that I'm very comfortable talking to your doctor. You're
Mm,
very comfortable
yes.
talking to her. And but in the beginning, we didn't have a doctor selected yet because he was still impatient. And once we finally got a doctor that we knew was going to be his, it made it easier to discuss the treatment plans
'Cause
and
you weren't
no.
switching every week.
Right. And it
And
gets
you didn't have to tell the doctors, "Well, this is what was going on, I think, last
Yeah.
week."
Right. It was like you get to know them and they get to know you. And now
Mm,
she knows Mason extremely well
yes.
and understands his triggers, understands his stress. She's very cognizant of all of that. And, because one of the other doctors had suggested surgery potentially. And so I'm just thankful that, I mean, and surgery would not have been a bad thing if that was necessary.
Mhm.
But his doctor that we ended up with went a different route. So you can
Mm,
see, I mean, right there, there's different different ways that it could have been
Yeah.
treated from the start. And even with surgery, though, Mason still would have needed biologics. So,
Surgery is not a cure because
right. Unless you have, okay,
ulcerative
well,
colitis. Yeah, for ulcerative colitis,
it's like a
it's
cure. I don't
yeah,
want to say because the disease
it,
remains and it's
yeah,
still
the
there, but
disease is
you
still there.
can remove one of the biggest
Mhm.
problems when you have ulcerative colitis. But
It's so hard for ulcerative colitis.
right, but with
With
Crohn's
Crohn's, you
disease,
take out a part of intestine, whatever is
yeah, your
having the problem,
colon, any
and
of
then it
that,
just comes back somewhere else. So
right?
it's not gonna get rid of
Right.
it.
So you can't just use surgery as a way to treat it and think it's going to be gone. You can use it as a way to help with current problems. And
Mhm.
sometimes you do have to have surgery, but it's important you have a maintenance drug that keeps it from
Getting
causing
worse.
inflammation and getting worse again. And some of you listening are maybe not doing the biologics route, and that's something you can discuss with your own doctor.
Mhm.
Again, we're basing it off of our
Make sure
experience.
whenever you do something, just ask your doctor.
Yes. And so actually that's something I want to talk about later.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to forget that because that's important.
I will remind you
Yes. So
if you
thank you.
don't.
We have some notes here, but we're kind of like we don't really have a script or anything today. We're just kind of talking.
Just chilling.
Yeah. And so the other thing is, like we said earlier, not all GIs are equal.
Mhm.
And some, which I had no idea about this either. I thought when they were bringing in gastroenterologists and GIs to work on Mason, like they all
They
knew
all
what
went through
Crohn's
the same,
disease,
yeah.
like they all were specialists. Found out that's not always
No.
true. So some of you listening, check with your GI and ask if they are IBD specialists. That's very important too.
Mhm.
Depending at the hospital, though, I know some people may not have as many options, and you may not have someone who has that specialty in IBD. We are in San Diego, so we have access to a lot of different. I mean, for him, he's at the pediatric level still,
Yeah.
but pretty soon we'll have access to a multitude of great places he can be treated at. And we can have the luxury of making sure we know now to get an IBD
Yeah.
specialist
They
because
work
that's
best.
not everyone is a specialist just because they're a GI. And
Mhm.
so a lot of us, you don't know to ask those questions. You have no idea when
When you're
they're
first diagnosed, you don't know what to
no.
ask, really.
Because I remember when we had chosen Dr. B, Nurse Robin had come in, and
Yes.
this was when we first met her. And she is the point person that helps everybody. She was her time at that time she was the nurse that worked with Dr. B. And when she came in to talk with us about everything, and I remember her mentioning like, you're in good hands because her specialty is actually IBD. And I was like,
Aren't they all?
so like, wait, that's news to me.
Yeah,
And
'cause
so
shouldn't they all be specialists?
yeah, and I mean, it's not to say GIs are not qualified.
No,
That's not what we're
no.
saying. But you're going to when you have someone who's IBD special is their specialty, you're going to be in really good hands.
Yes.
And so that was like, oh, so just FYI for all of you out there listening. And I think the other thing is when you're diagnosed, kind of like we are saying, when they say you have Crohn's disease, you're like, what's that?
Mm.
You feel like all of a sudden you need to understand this disease in like 20 minutes. And it's like,
No, that's
and
it
that's
takes a
not
lot
going to
more than
happen.
20 minutes.
Mm.
Like, it's been 4
Over
years,
4
over
years.
4
Well, over
years
4
since
years
I was
now.
diagnosed,
Yeah,
and we're still learning
yeah.
about this disease.
And that's because science is still
Mhm.
learning. Yeah,
There's still discoveries happening, and it's not like obviously, there's not a cure for it,
right,
so it's not that new. They don't know what treatments will work for people because it's different for everyone.
right.
Um, so eventually they might find ways to figure things out like that.
Mhm. It's very difficult to pinpoint what causes this disease.
There is really no cause.
Right. It's right now. I mean, obviously, there's something,
Mhm.
but we none of us know, and that's why there's foundations like the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Why there are a lot of science and companies that research this and foundations because everyone wants to understand it. Because
To help
obviously,
others.
yeah, you'd be able to
Yeah.
help so many if you were able to better understand this. And so there's an understanding it's an autoimmune disease because your immune system is fighting
Mhm.
your body. But it's like there's many different ways it can do this and many different, it's not as simple as just like you have one immune cell in your body and that's not how it works. So
No.
so I think it's like when you're first diagnosed, it was like, I want to know everything I can. And
Yeah, to help.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then it's like then you head to your computer and you start to Google. And
And then Google's like, well, that's not
yeah.
good for you.
And so it's like, so I relied on the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation for a lot of my information because I know it is
A good
a
source.
good source, right? It was better than, sometimes you find like threads where people are talking about stuff and it's like, what?
Oh,
Like,
I found
I
all of
wasn't
it.
ready for that. And also like I think you are trying to feel like what caused it?
What
How
was the cause?
right? Because it's like that was one of my questions, like, what happened? Why did Mason get
I
this?
assume I'm no scientist. I'm no
Yeah.
scientist at
No,
all.
you have taken lab
Yeah, I have
biochemistry.
taken lab bio,
Yeah.
but I
You're almost
assume,
certified.
yeah, I'm all
He's
almost.
not.
No, I'm not.
He's not.
But I would assume it's something to do with genetics.
And it's partially, I think they say like 15% of cases are genetics. Well,
15%.
genetically passed down, but your genes do play a role
Yes.
in this. Yes. So, because a lot of people, I think that's where it's confusing. They think genetics. You hear that it's like, oh, so that means, but genetics are also different. It doesn't always mean that you got it from somebody or
No.
you're a person doesn't have to have it.
No.
But it's very interesting because we've done the gene studies, which we've talked about on here with Mason to see if there's anything, and there wasn't. In his case, some people do find certain indicators.
Interesting.
Right. So that's interesting too. It's like, wouldn't they all have the exact same,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of genes, a lot of mutations, a lot of variations that can happen. And so, yeah, so it's a lot.
Like
And
she said, like, wouldn't you expect to see some of the same genes in all of the Crohn's
right.
patients? Like, because he said that eventually they might have different types of Crohn's disease,
Yeah, that's what
like
we've talked
type
about.
A Crohn's or type B, because
Yeah.
they're all so different. Some people are affected by food, some people aren't.
Mhm.
Some people can take Remicade, other people, like me,
It
Remicade
doesn't
didn't
work.
work,
Right.
and some people need dual biologics, some people only need one,
Right.
and it's just so different.
It is.
You'd think that at one point there'll be different branches for
Yeah.
different
We've had that discussion in
people.
our house a lot because when I do hear people say like, "Oh, you just adjust your diet." I'm like,
That works for you,
"Wow." And
but
then I'm thinking, "Are you sure you have Crohn's
yeah,
disease
it
if
can.
you can do that?" But then it's like, "Well, no, they've been tested and diagnosed too." And so there has to be, to me, there's got to be different. I mean, they may ultimately find the cause, but there's got to be different ways it affects people or different sources of how the body does this
Because
because
going on a diet or something like that is not gonna help me.
no,
But if someone else has managed to do that, that is so different from me.
right.
It has to be a different kind.
That's what we sometimes. I mean, we again, we don't know for
We
sure.
don't
This
know for
is just
sure,
our
but
theories.
it's our
We
theory,
have
our
these conversations
hypothesis.
over dinner
Yes.
sometimes, and
They're
so
very fun.
yeah, and it's because like with Mason, he's the biologics have helped him, and but the first one did not.
No.
Methotrexate did not. Other people like us, it's obvious that a lot of you suffer from the same symptoms and same problems with this, but it's amazing to me how some people can do things differently. So, but for us, we found a GI that we trusted
Mhm.
completely, and it's hard to do that. And I know, like, because as a patient, as a parent, um, you're listening to this person speak on it that is like they're unsure of what caused it, but we're going to try this, and they're
Yeah.
very honest about it, and you're thinking, oh my gosh,
Well, if you don't know what's gonna work for it,
yeah.
how,
So
you know.
you just have to trust the process and trust that maybe if that, and also not be too freaked out. Like if that biologic didn't work, like we were devastated when Remicade failed.
Mhm.
It was like, oh my gosh, like no, this was supposed to work because I've
Yeah.
heard like it works in like
So
50%
many
of
other people
people.
work, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, so what now? And so then we went to Stellara,
Mhm.
and that sort of
Sti
worked, but it was
it kind of
exciting.
worked, yeah, it was exciting because something was happening.
Yeah, and so we finally felt like, okay. And then when they added that second
Mhm.
biologic, it was like,
Oh,
oh,
wow,
okay.
okay.
Like
Yeah,
this is
that's
it.
good.
So don't be discouraged,
Yeah.
and trust your doctor. And if you feel like your doctor's not giving you good advice,
Get a second
get
opinion.
a second opinion, okay? Make sure that you are speaking with your GI and that you have somebody you're trusting. And
Mhm.
if you're not, and even if you do trust them, but you're like, I just need that extra reassurance, get a
always
second
get a second
opinion. Our
opinion.
GI is very clear about that. She's always said that. She's okay with it.
Mhm.
So we feel very confident that, she's not going to get upset if
No.
we need to do that. And that's pretty cool too. So we've already had that conversation. And so yeah, so basically, you know, you just want a lot of answers probably at this point if you're newly diagnosed, even if you've been diagnosed for a while and you're not finding a treatment that works. You're always looking for
Yeah,
answers.
you always want
That's what I think.
reassurance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you want to know like it really and don't stress yourself out so much as trying to figure out why this happened because science has not figured
No,
out I mean,
science hasn't figured it out.
you're most likely not
No,
going to.
maybe you will figure it out
It,
and
but it's
break
I
the
mean,
news, but
it's just we don't want you stressing
no,
over something that is just the way it
it
is.
is.
Once they have it, they have it. And there's no sense in going over and over. I mean, unless you're in research and you do
Mhm.
want to find out. And so I mean, I think it's important to go over the symptoms, to go over your history, whatever questions they need to collect. But you as a person, like some people think it's antibiotics. And
Mhm.
I'll see because I see this all the time, like, oh, maybe it was antibiotics. Oh, maybe it was COVID. And it's like, so maybe something triggered something.
Well, I don't know what people think, but people think or whatever that stress causes Crohn's,
Yeah,
but stress doesn't cause Crohn's. Crohn's is simply
there.
dormant,
Yeah, yeah,
dormant.
dormant is the good
Mhm.
word.
And stressing out will make the Crohn's
Like active.
active,
Mhm.
activate, the symptoms will activate, which is a flare.
Right.
So it's not like, "Oh my god, I'm really stressed right now. This is
Yeah,
gonna cause Crohn's." No,
right.
you've already had Crohn's the entire time, and you're just waking it up.
So it's like don't blame yourself even if you're thinking, "Oh, I got so stressed about this and that." And so
You
it
can't cause it.
no, and so Crohn's is there. There's all these theories and people have theories on your diet caused it, but it's like, how do you explain the kids?
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe it did happen to you, but it's different for everyone.
yeah,
So
that's the thing. And so we could go like what we're doing now. You could talk and talk and talk about this, and we're not going to arrive at an actual
no.
answer. So just letting you know, focus your time on if you're the one diagnosed on yourself and healing, or if you're the parent helping them get through that. But don't worry so much about, was it something they ate? Was it something they took?
Mm,
The doctors will ask you those questions.
yeah.
But it's I think we just it's just a frustrating thing. You can just go run around. I think a lot of people they like want to go a natural route. And I think it's like you wish you could just get rid of this by taking a supplement.
Which
And
would be nice, but,
yeah. And I know
mm,
and the thing is, there are entire businesses built on this system, which are supplements for gut health. I mean, I see these things all the time. I think I'm targeted because obviously we talk about this a lot. So I get a lot, we've even been approached by a supplement company, offered product for Mason to try. And of course, I'm not going to do that. We're
you're only doing something the doctor says
Right.
so.
Pediatrics is very different. Adults, it's your own decision. And maybe you do want to try it. Go for it. If you have your doctor's blessing on that and you are, it's something you feel strong about and you've researched. But for caregivers with kids, we have a lot of different things to consider. I don't think a lot of people understand that. And so it is very, very different. But we all wish there was a holistic, easier
Mhm.
route for them. Nobody
No shots, no infusions, no
yeah, like
pills.
we didn't want that for you. And so your mind is immediately like, how can I help them so they're not hurting? I don't want them to have to go through all that. And then, you realize that you just have to again trust in the process and really ask those questions. Talk to the doctor. Ask them, why are you not just increasing their vitamin D?
Yeah,
Why can't we, why are you, and it's like, well, they're going to do that too. And so there may be an element of supplements involved
mhm,
and that
but that's not gonna help it.
but that
It's not gonna
alone
cure it.
right, right. So, like, for Mason, you did have different vitamins, you did
Mhm.
have different
Double
supplements, you did have antibiotics, you did
yeah,
have,
iron.
yeah, you had all those different supplements along with your
Mhm,
biologics, but there are new developments with certain supplements that are looking more promising, and so it will be exciting to see what they figure out in the future because this is just, like, as of right now, this
mhm.
is
Just right now, and
right,
they're
and
still
that's what we're
making Yeah.
yeah, different developments are coming through. Yeah, that's why we talk about things, because things can change.
Mhm.
And our stance may change because there may be a new development that the doctor wants to try, and we're going to be on board with that. But um and so with that, it's important to look who you talk to for support and for answers. And I think naturally a lot of us look to family, to friends, and online now. Like social
Mhm.
media is that's one of the, places. I went to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. I recommend everybody immediately do that. But the other thing is, like, I joined support groups, which were great
Yeah.
because I joined a parents group because I could immediately relate to these parents. But as time has gone on and I've learn more about this, I also realized that a lot of those parents, I mean, were just parents. And some of them think that they are medical professionals, again, because you feel like you've learned so much.
Mhm.
And
You
so,
are not.
right. And you're not. And so I do appreciate when a parent can say, here's what we would do, but please talk to your doctor. I
Mhm.
think that is the most important thing, not to say, oh yeah, no, just do this. And I can't stand when a parent is telling someone to do something because it worked for their kid, especially when it could be dangerous.
Mhm.
And so you just have to understand support groups are great for support, and you can throw questions out there, but always consult with your own doctor, because
The doctor is the most important person to consult with.
and they're going to know, like, what your
Mhm.
situation is
Yeah.
versus
Someone
someone else's.
someone else online overseas or wherever they are isn't gonna know about your specific case because it's
Right.
different for everyone, and just because
Right.
it worked for them doesn't mean it's gonna work for
And when
you.
a doctor makes considerations, they're looking at all of your labs, looking at
Mhm.
all of your biopsies, your scopes.
They've
They're
seen
looking
your
at a different
DNA, they've
picture.
seen your blood,
Yeah.
they
They
know.
know, and physically they have all the pictures, they have everything. So when somebody goes to a support group, I mean, we'll do our best to be
Mhm.
supportive and say, "Hey, this is what," just like we're doing on the podcast,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't be giving you advice. If your doctor's giving you advice and you're ignoring that and hoping that somebody in the group can give you a better answer, it's not to say, like, doctors are open
Mhm.
too sometimes to discussing different things. It's not like it's but that's the important part, is taking that information you've learned and approaching your doctor with it and see what they say, because you just don't want to say, like, if someone says, oh, we removed this from our child's diet, and you just go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
Talk to the doctor and
Yeah,
make
make
sure.
sure the doctor is okay
Right,
with it.
because they may say, "Oh, wait, no, that's not good because your child's symptoms, they don't need that kind of fiber right now."
Mhm.
Or with their, or, "No, we've tested them for celiac. We have tested them. No, there's no gluten restrictions." You don't want to start depriving them. What if they're iron deficient and you start removing something that has iron in it, so it's just important that everybody's on the same page so you can understand why, if your child starts to flare or start, like, what happened. And
Mhm.
we also have the food journals.
Yeah.
Might as well plug that
Yeah.
here on Amazon,
Yeah,
guys. Yeah,
sponsorship.
not your average food journal, and IBD symptom tracker is the
Mhm.
name of that. And so you
You should
guys
definitely
are,
get some, they're very helpful.
yeah, and we have the same not your average restroom journal and IBD symptom tracker. You would take
Yeah.
these to your doctor.
Yeah, take these too, doctor.
Yeah,
They
so
help with, like, because when you go to the doctors and you're in a flare or you've gone to a flare, the
yeah,
doctor might say, "Well, when did you notice things start to happen?" Or, "Well, what have you eat in the past few days?"
yeah.
And I try to remember, I'm like,
Yeah, you might,
"Mhm."
yeah. So if you're starting to feel things are starting to change, you can start documenting immediately.
You can write
And
down what you ate.
right, and it goes further. It goes into all the other symptoms that could be IBD
Mhm.
related. So we didn't just do it's not just for food, it's for
Yeah, it's
everything. So
for
it's a
all
bigger
symptoms.
picture. And
Yeah.
if you show that to your doctor, it would be helpful. So we do have those.
So they're very
And
nice.
yeah, and the other thing I think is kind of funny, because not funny, but it was, like, horribly funny, I guess, is in the hospital you would see the commercials for
Oh,
these
yes.
treatments, right? And so you're watching these commercials, and I mean, everybody knows, like, most of the
Mhm.
commercial is
They
all the ways it's going to hurt you, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," and, like, it's
that's
all these scary words, right? And you're
mhm.
thinking,
Like, "Well, why would I take
"Well,
that then?
why do I want something else
It's
when I've
gonna
got
cause
this?"
something else."
And so
And
and
then
then
the people in the commercial are dancing and having the
yeah.
time of their lives
They're
with the
boarding a yacht, they're
yeah.
driving their toilet in their semi truck to
Yeah,
where.
that actually did happen once,
Yeah,
we're not making that up.
yeah, it's on the commercials, you'll see it.
In Tibio, I think.
Yeah, and then do you have the one where they're in a band, and they're on stage and they're like, "Oh, my stomach hurts." They walk off stage,
They go to
whatever, they
surgery,
get
yeah,
there and come back and they're like,
and
"This
they're
is great."
happy and they
So
feel perfect.
they have all this stuff going on to distract you while they're talking about all this, like,
Yeah, people in the
stuff.
background are so happy while it's just telling you all the
Yeah.
horrible side effects that could happen to you.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of us, from your perspective, you're like,
Mhm.
"Why?"
Yeah, I'm on Remicade, and then the Remicade commercial comes on and says
Yeah,
what's gonna happen. You're like the side effects, and you're like,
yeah. And so
oh,
me as a parent, I'm thinking, "Well, listen, I did everything I could right to get Mason to be like a healthy,
mm,
like child. We never had to use antibiotics for him. He never had these infections or anything. And so it was like amazing. And now I'm like looking, I'm like, I have to like put this, like allow you guys to put this into his body. And it's, and so I think what happens though is we pay attention to the side effects of treatments, which are, they have to give you every scenario. And so the actual side effects very, very small.
yeah,
And
they can't say there's no side
right.
effects.
And so if you listen to anything, it's going to do that. So important to remember, like, don't freak out too much.
It's not like that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
There's a very small chance of it happening.
but it is important to
Yeah,
know.
so you can keep an eye out
Right,
if
right.
those things
And
happen.
you can come off of things if something is problematic.
Mm,
But I think what more people do is research the side effects of the treatments than the side effects of an untreated Crohn's disease.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize, so Crohn's disease is progressive. It gets
Yeah, it will
worse.
get worse and worse and
Right.
worse.
And it can hurt you too. It
Yeah, you
can.
could take a chance with biologics, or you could take no chance without biologics and let Crohn's disease take over and get potentially worse than
She will
us.
destroy your body.
Mhm.
There's no doubt about that. And it's like I think more people are worried about the treatment and they're not even thinking about what this disease can do.
Mhm.
And so yeah, the disease can be deadly. And it's
You can at
important.
least try.
Right. So there's that balance. And then again, talk to your doctor with these questions. And ours reassured us. Um, it was still not an easy decision, but once we saw the effects and how he is so much
It was much
healthier,
easier
it was easier to say,
because
okay,
when I was on Remicade, nothing was happening, and it was a 4-hour infusion, and so it's
yeah,
like, "Why are we doing this?"
right. You feel like
But
we're doing all this and it's
yeah, and
not.
you obviously feel like you're kind of getting better. But if you really look at everything that's happening, you're not.
Yeah.
You feel like something is happening because you're on it, but when you find something that actually works,
Hmm.
and you are going 15 times a day, now you're going 0 or
Yeah.
2 times. That is such a big difference. You are the decision is clear. You obviously want to take the to help you because you've
Right.
seen what it's like to be on it and it actually
Right.
works.
Yeah, and so that is the difference. So I think those of you who've never had a biologic, it's a difficult jump. And once you
Mm.
make that jump though, like that's why I said we trust the doctor. She kept saying he can be better. And I was
And
like,
we're like,
"Really?
"Can he?"
Can he though?" And now we're like,
Yeah, he
"Okay,
can.
he can. He can." And so I'm glad
Doctor
we
will most
trusted
likely
her.
always be right.
Yeah, so I'm really glad we trusted her. And then, the other thing to understand, I mean, those of you listening, you could be an adult with this. You could
Mhm.
be,
A kid,
yeah,
a caretaker of a kid.
yeah, so you could be any of those things. But it's important to understand that pediatric Crohn's is not the same as
No,
adult onset.
not the same.
And so you don't have the same luxury. That's why adults, you can try different strategies. But for kids, you have a window of time with your growth, with your bone development, and you're trying to grow, put all your growing in. And if you're not getting the nutrients and if you're not able to eat, and if it's just
Mm,
you're gonna end up very, very
yeah.
ill. And your bones are gonna also end up in very bad shape.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you need all the time you can have to grow.
Right. So
Don't waste it.
that's what they explain to us. That's why a lot of times kids are actually approached with biologics faster than adults might
Mhm.
be because they are more aggressive in how they treat children. Because you do have a window of time. It's not like you were 25 when you're diagnosed,
Yeah, you don't
30.
need to grow.
Right. And there's things you
You're
don't
not
have
gonna
to worry
grow.
about. So it's like if you want to try diet, if you want to try supplements, different routes. But with a kid, it's like you
Get
just
them on
want
it.
to get
Yeah.
them under control. just get that disease under control. So
Mhm.
that's also important. That might help you guys feel better if you have kids with this. And if you're an adult, you can handle it a little differently
Mhm.
if you feel like you want to. And, the other thing that I wanted to mention is people are going to give you advice from, like kind of we mentioned in the beginning, what we started off with. They're going to give you their own
Yeah,
perspective
their
if
own.
they've had this disease or if they knew someone. And just knowing someone with this disease is not enough to make you an expert understand, because every time we hear like, oh yeah, my friend did that and they cut out gluten and they have to be really strict, but they're doing great. And it's like, you may not know though that they've had scopes and things don't look good,
Mhm.
or that they are also taking some
Or
kind
how
of pill.
severe their disease currently is.
Right. Or if they do take an injection, some people don't talk about it. And so
Mhm.
maybe they do diet changes, but they might be doing something else too. And you just
Mhm.
don't see that. And so it's just important to know when people are giving you this advice, um, don't let anyone make you feel, upset or bad,
Mhm.
or, just don't let it upset you. Just take it as they're trying to connect with you. And so they're using the only connection that they might have.
Mhm.
And it's not like they're trying to hurt you or trying
No.
to, they're
Yeah.
trying to have conversation with you. So look at it that, okay, they're trying to reach out to me, and take that time to educate and talk to them a little bit about, okay, this is what I have. Like, this is mine. And but just look at it in that sense. Now, if someone is deliberately not being nice and
Yeah.
blaming you,
Then
then
that's definitely
that's on
just
them.
yeah.
Okay. That is not you. And
That's
yeah,
why the block button exists on
yeah,
the media.
yeah, on social media does
Yes.
help. The Like we mentioned earlier, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is there to support you guys. They are doing a lot of research. They are funding a lot of research is what
Mhm.
they're doing. I'm part of a patient advisory committee right now, and we're working with something that it's very exciting to me to hear the developments that they're trying to do to find out how to, like, personally identify what you may need to treat this disease, which
That is really cool.
yeah,
That's what we
which
need.
that is what we need, that personalized attention to the instead of wasting time with the
Yeah,
biologic.
and you're potentially getting worse and worse and worse, and
Right. You can go
yeah,
straight to
to
what
what
works
you
for you.
need.
So there's different things that are coming about. So progress is being made, and that's really important to know. And maybe like we've become very active. We speak about it, we post about it all the
Mhm.
time. And it's not to just be like annoying with all the pictures,
No,
annoying, but it's to show you like this is living with it. This is
is
what
what
this
we
is
go
our
through.
life. And you can post all your pictures
Mhm.
of you at the beach this week. You were on a hike and all these things. And
That's you, yeah.
yeah, and so that's you living your life. And so we're just trying to show people, from if I could post all the pretty happy pictures that we want on Instagram, but it's more important for me to say this is our life. Here we are
And if
at the
you are,
hospital
like, living like
again.
this, you're not alone.
Right, you're not alone. And it also means life is still good. It can
Mhm,
it's that's not it that's the thing, but it's important to show, like, because you don't have to hide it. It should
mhm,
be like this is our life, and be proud of it. Be like what you're doing and the work you're putting in, share that.
mhm.
And so yeah, so it's important to, I feel like, maybe help yourself heal by figuring out how you can help and what you can do.
Yeah,
I think that is a big
important,
big step.
yeah.
And also I guess this is the last thing I'm going to end on. We could keep going on and on about
Mhm.
this. So, and we could, you can let us know if there's something else you want us to talk about too that
Yeah,
we didn't get everything today.
no,
But we're just trying to, if you were newly diagnosed, we just want to have kind of a landing
because
page
we
where,
have new viewers.
yeah, we
We
just want to
wanna
make sure we're
address
like, you're like,
mhm,
okay, this is updated. So let's see if there's anything in here.
updated backdrop.
Yeah, I know. Well, that too. That's what we used when we went to the Queens Class Foundation. We
Mhm.
had a booth, and so we had our,
Take steps walk.
yeah, the Take
Yes.
Steps walk. We had
Very
that up.
fun.
So we decided
Very
to throw that
which if
together.
you're new with Crohn's disease, you should definitely go there because
Check
it's
out
really
Take
fun.
Steps. Yeah, it is. And so yeah, so the last thing is, um try not to compare yourself, like your progress, with others.
Mm-mm.
Because I think you need to really look at your individual results. Like, look at your labs, look at your, see where it makes sure, like, compare yourself to yourself and your progress, because it is weird. Like, people will post things being positive, and
Mhm.
I think saying, like, look at how good I look now.
And
Look
that
what
sounds
I
like it's
can
kind of
do.
bragging.
And but it's not.
It's not.
But it's what it
Mhm.
feels like when you are in an active flare. I mean, some of you may take that as hopeful, like, I'm going to
Mhm.
get there. And some of you are going to take that as, well,
Why aren't I there?
why am I not there? And you almost may feel more discouraged. You
Mhm.
may feel more frustrated because you aren't making that progress. And it might feel like you are um regressing instead of progressing like these other people are. And so it's just important to, if you're the kind of person that loves seeing those inspirational posts, and then that is good too. That's great. And that's why it is okay to post your results. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't. You definitely should be proud of yourself or your child,
Mhm.
and to maybe give hope to others. But if you're the person looking at it and you're feeling discouraged, just remember, like, they're sharing their experience, but focus on your own
Yeah,
progress.
you
And
are the most important.
right. And so just try, not to compare yourself, and to be proud of what you're
You are
doing
accomplished.
too. Yeah. Because some people are going to be Olympic swimmers, they're going to
Mhm.
be basketball players, they're going to be, world famous rock stars,
Yeah,
singers, and other ones are going to maybe be on disability and struggle to even do anything in a day. And
everyone's
so,
disease is different.
right. And so it's just important to remember, be kind to everybody with
Mhm.
this, and try to be understanding, and just don't be hard on yourself.
No.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's the
So,
moral of
yeah.
today's podcast.
So on that note, so that's we'll kind of end it there,
Mhm.
and we can probably talk about more of this in the future. Like I said, I think it's important to return back and kind of do this
Yeah,
every so
definitely.
often as we learn more.
We learn more and more every
Yeah.
year and every day,
Because
every month.
obviously, like, what's working for us, it's going great now, but, we like to be real with you guys and share what's going on. I mean, Mason still has his challenges. We
Mhm.
don't always post or share all of it.
No.
And because day to day, it's like I'm not gonna go do daily updates on
Yeah.
social media for everybody. And that's your business. Like, that's your private life,
Yeah.
that's your business. There's certain things you can share to say, "Hey, look, we're getting another infusion. Hey, look, getting another injection." Just to show people this is our life. This is what Crohn's looks like.
Mhm.
That's okay. But there's other things you don't always share. So just because somebody does look like they're doing great, just be kind and understanding that
Yes.
they may still need
Choose
that support.
choose kindness.
Yeah. So with that, you guys can follow us if you do want to see some of Mason's journey we were just talking about
Uh-huh.
on Team IB Determined on Instagram. You can also follow the Reggie Project. We're gonna hope to get that kind of kicked off a little bit more. We've already announced it, but we haven't really got to grow that site yet. And I think that I'm very excited about that. So
Mhm.
check out the Reggie Project.
Reggie.
Reggie's kind of up
Yeah,
there,
he's up
yeah.
there. There he is.
Yeah.
He's a bit, a bit too high, but hey, he's
Oh,
there.
I know. He's standing on my head right there. But yeah, but join the Reggie Project, find out what it's about, and you can participate too. It's something that's very exciting for us. And the other thing is you can listen to us anywhere. If you might be watching this right now, but if you
Yeah.
prefer just to listen, you can listen on like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon
There.
Music, Apple
Mhm.
Podcasts, all of that. And there's more too. We'll have a
Link
link,
to Buzzsprout,
right,
which
which will
has all
show
of them.
all of the links where you can listen
Mhm.
to us.
Speaking of podcasts, there are now YouTube podcasts,
Mhm.
which if you are on YouTube, you can hear us on the YouTube podcast. But if you want to watch us as well as hear us, you can go to the normal YouTube videos. And if you are watching us, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, hit that bell icon.
Yeah, that's basically it, guys. Leave
And
us
don't
some
forget to leave comments.
comments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we love reading all your comments.
say hi. You don't even have to have any big news if you don't want to. Just say hi, check in.
Yeah, hi.
So we'll say hi back.
Yes, say hi. It's
Yeah.
just all friendly in the comments.
So thank you guys
Mhm.
for listening. We hope this was of some value and some help to you guys.
Yes.
And we all hope that you have a
Good rest of
good rest
your
of the day,
day. Yeah,
week,
day, week,
month.
school year.
Yeah, all of that.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
yep.
So see you on
Next
the next. Yeah.
episode.
See you guys on the next episode.
So bye.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.